Record-setting TWIRx today, our biggest This Week in Pharmacy to date. I am on fire. I'm so excited to be part of the pharmacy profession. You're my heroes. It is American Pharmacists Month, and we are going to be celebrating for the entire month. If you have something happening at your school of pharmacy, if something's happening at your company, if something's happening in artificial intelligence or a specific win that you're experiencing, get on This Week in Pharmacy. I'm dedicating the whole October to the innovation of our pharmacists and our pharmacy leaders and our technicians. But just hyped to be here, hyped to be a part of today's show. Once again, biggest show we've ever had. We have Jesse McCullough kicking us off from Keystone Pharmacy Insights. We have Dr. Devin Buston, and he's the founder of TWIRx. He's bringing in Lisette Logan. Dr. Logan will be talking to us about TWIRx and how important it is to have a system that pharmacists can track treatment and make money other than just a dispensing fee. Bill Schmitnick is on from the Patient Protector. Everybody knows Bill from his horrific story that he lost his son Cole because of a PBM policy, and it was inexcusable, unforgivable. Dr. Jill Klolzer, Dean of the College of Pharmacy, the University of Iowa, is going to be here. This is going to be awesome. And then rounding out today's TWIRx is Wellgistics leader. Wellgistics just went public this year. They're a secondary, very creative wholesaler. They're doing things in artificial intelligence that's just out of this world. Dr. Jason Lang will be with us. PharmD, celebrating Pharmacist Month. That is the theme all month on This Week in Pharmacy. Hey, welcome to This Week in Pharmacy, kicking off the show. Today's partially standard by evidence-based podcasting, the standard that we're trying to build out with a numerous number of pharmacy schools, leaders in pharmacy who are deep into pharmacy education, and how that a supplement to your primary education in the form of podcasting could bring you a lot of double up on information, hearing it from peers, it being reviewed by your peers, assuring its authenticity and its evidence-based standard. Be on the lookout for evidence-based podcasting. It is American Pharmacists Month, October. We're so excited. So October, the whole month, we're going to be celebrating pharmacists through social media, as well as our technicians, supporting those pharmacists. And I'm just excited. It's one of our most favorite months, and we're moving more into conference season than ever. I am going to also be jumping into additional conferences. So PrimeRx, the Explore conference is happening on October 10th. And then the 23rd of October is the Super Bowl of Independent Community Pharmacy, and that is the NCPA. If you're going, please reach out. Let me know that you're going. Let's connect, get you on the show. We're going to cover each of those themes. And it's just been an honor to be a part of both of those organizations for years. PrimeRx, known as Micro Merchant back in the day, I actually competed with them back in the day for pharmacy software accounts, which is just shows you how long we've all been around. They evolved to PrimeRx, and now they're having a user conference to dig down into the impact of artificial intelligence on our community pharmacy owners, our long-term care pharmacists, and even the mixed pharmacies out there that are doing a bunch of new things, including some specialty touch. Hey, it is time for TWIRx news. And this is interesting. We have news coming out of Wichita. This is the Wichita Eagle. And it says former rep Tiahrt, pharmacy benefit manager Bill could shut down the CVS in Kansas. And this was just published this week. It goes through how, with the frustration of money being spent from the government to care for government workers, government programs, government subsidies, and Medicaid. How are the PBMs using that money to assure the safety of our patients, the effectiveness of the treatment, and digging down into the bigger issue in those chronic states? This is so important to put PBMs in the crosshairs of being a commodity-driven entity at this stage. The three biggest ones just pushing prescriptions through to get that money and having nothing to do with treatment. And we've been tracking this for over 15 years now. And so CVS Health, one of the providers set to be the most impacted, was forced to announce plans to close 23 pharmacy locations across Arkansas. Those closures will affect more than 340,000 patients and eliminate over 500 local healthcare jobs, all leave more than 10,000 patients without access to specialized pharmacy care. This is the impact when you do not align your mission, and this is a mission of an individual, and everyone listen up. If you are in this business to just make money and that's it, and not to forward our profession, you really shouldn't be here. You can continue to do that, but that's not changing pharmacy. And this is the fault of the three biggest, most powerful PBMs in our industry right now. They have bent and partially broken our pharmacy profession, and it was done out of greed, and that's unfortunate. Look up this article from the Wichita Eagle. The link will be in the show notes. Hey, next up, Neronha lawsuit against CVS. What do you know? CVS Caremark can help save my Middletown pharmacy. It was written in as a guest view from the Newport RI, Rhode Island.com, NewportRI.com. The Newport Daily News reports on the impact that that has had on Middleton, and how pharmacy benefit managers have forced them to other pharmacies other than their hometown pharmacy, who they've known for years, who they trust, who knows their children, who knew their parents, who knew tendencies of family generational issues, and being able to pass this information from one generation pharmacy owner to the next. And now we have communities that trust these people to guide them in their healthcare. The number one provider being touched and connected with most often is, of course, our pharmacists, and the pharmacists in the community, our pharmacists in health systems and in hospitals, and really understanding over and over again what these people are going through. So once again, please look out for this article. It will be in the show notes. It digs down into a patient's own experience and the impact of PBM reform, the impact of the current state of our three biggest PBMs. Take a look. All right, good news out of Pharmacy Times. The FDA approves lubricentindin. Forgive me, my pharmacists. And this digs into helping those with lung cancer. And it will go through the article of where they're at, how the trial showcase efficacy, safety of lubricentine regimen. And it goes down through some of the information, and also a shout out to the organizations that are supporting this research, helping to come out with these new medications, Jazz Pharmaceuticals, and how they're able to now put that in the hands of pharmacists and physicians to really dial into the specifics of where the stage of that disease is at, and what medications, based on the continuing use of modification of staging and titration stage medications in the future, variations of a medication. This is amazing. Pharmacists are part of this. You're feeding the AI and the systems out there in Medispan and Wolters Kluwer to do more. And this is exciting. Also good news, once again, from the grandfather of all publications in pharmacy, our Pharmacy Times. And they are talking about building an opioid stewardship program in cancer care, pharmacist roles, challenges, and patient safety. And this is a story featuring Dr. Matthew D. Clark, PharmD, pharmacy specialist in palliative care and opioid stewardship at the University of Texas and Anderson Cancer Center. And there's a nice video in there of that. I'll have this in the show notes featuring Dr. Clark. And just take a look at that. Listen to some of his ideas specific to his experiences. I'm going to reach out to him and see if we can't do a follow-up interview with him to kind of dig down into his research and how a pharmacist is really leading a health system within a specific disease state, and what that means for the specialists out there in pharmacy, and what that means for our profession. So proud of the evolution of some of the specialists in different disease states, and in the experience that I had at the NASP, the National Association of Specialty Pharmacies. We're going to be releasing the 3-part series. I think it starts next week, and just got done talking and following up with Sheila Arquette, CEO of the NASP. And the news, just to let you know, it was an explosive growth year for specialty pharmacy, for pharmacy in general, but specialty. They had over 2,150 attendees, people that were interested in meeting with vendors on the show floor, in the presentations, the importance of AI in specialty pharmacy as well, under the control of those pharmacy teams and the workflow systems and the hubs. But I am so excited about what's happening at the NASP, including their educational division with the Certified Pharmacy Specialist certification, and what that means to dig down into additional things that are impacting patients specifically, and you pharmacists who are working in those environments, you're taking your time with your patients to understand what they're going through. I mean, that's where your specialty care, and that's where you really stand out, is because you have specific understanding and specific knowledge of what your patient went through with that medication, and maybe suggestions with supplements along the way, or doing something to really dial in to the needs of your patient. I'm so impressed with our pediatric podcasts that have really taken fire. Our Tamara Rugels, who are digging into disease state management in our senior world. I just love the camaraderie that we're having, the excitement around where the profession's going, and the next generation of pharmacist leaders. Hey, a shout out to my friend and trusted colleague who helped me with the Veterans Pharmacy Care Summit. He was a speaker there, our very first. I'm going to grow that now on a national level, dialing into what veterans specifically need from pharmacists. It's very different, just like every specialty is different. But I want to give the floor to my friend Jesse McCullough. He's the founder of Keystone Pharmacy Insights.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to October. Welcome to American Pharmacists Month, the month where we celebrate this great profession and we shine a light on the impact pharmacists and pharmacy teams make every single day. This year's theme is caring for our communities. Last night, I was challenged with a thought. I thought, what if throughout the month of October, what if throughout American Pharmacists Month, what if we undertook a challenge? What if we did one small thing every day to elevate ourselves or our colleagues or the communities that we serve? How would things look at the end of a challenge like that? So I sat down and I compiled a list of 31 challenges, a list of 31 small actions that may radically improve your pharmacy life. Here's how it works. Every day in October, you'll have one simple action you can take. These actions are designed to do one of three things. They're to help you grow personally, advocate for the pharmacy profession, and to encourage others. None of the challenges that I have listed are complicated at all, but if we all do them every day, I can only imagine how things could be improved for each one of us. So let's start with day one. Your challenge today is to download the Oath of the Pharmacist and to post it somewhere where you will see it every day. Now, that may be the office wall, that may be in your locker, that may be on a refrigerator, that may even be on the mirror in a restroom, for example. I don't care if you have to have one copy or multiple copies. That doesn't matter to me. What I do care about is that you read the oath once a day for the month. This daily reminder of the promises we have made to ourselves and to our teams and to our communities will serve to keep our focus on caring for our communities. So are you up for the challenge? I certainly hope so. As you get started, let me encourage you to not take on the challenge alone. Find some friends to take the challenge with you. Invite a colleague, invite a technician, invite a student, invite them all, right? The more of us who participate, the bigger of impact we'll be able to make together. None of us are in this profession alone, and our communities are counting on us to continue to serve them and to serve them at a high standard. So thank you for stepping up. Thank you for caring for your community, and thank you for being part of this 31-day journey. Let's get started. Day one begins right now. Download the Oath of the Pharmacist, post it where you'll see it, and read it every day this month. After you've downloaded the oath, simply write "done" in the comments and share this video with 2 friends. And I'll be back tomorrow with your day 2 challenge.
As frontline healthcare providers, pharmacists like you understand the importance of personalized care, especially in acute pain management. Ural Pharma is dedicated to providing high-quality, generic products tailored to meet your patient's needs. The company aims to serve a diverse range of patient populations, including athletes recovering from intense training, weekend warriors managing minor injuries, and those seeking a practical and mess-free option for acute pain management. Keep Ural in your toolbox of pain management options and join the ranks of pharmacists leading the way in personalized care. To learn more about Ural Pharma and its products, including full prescribing information, boxed warnings, and important safety information, visit uralpharma.com. That's YARAL pharma.com and connect with them on LinkedIn.
Hey, and on This Week in Pharmacy, special guest who I'm not sure if you know this gentleman, but he's pretty special to our ecosystem in the pharmacy land, and lots of pharmacy owners know him. Shout out to the Pharmacists United for Truth and Transparency and all the work that they do for patient advocacy. Mr. Bill Schmitnick, one of the drivers of the Patient Protector. You can learn more by going to patientprotector.us. Bill, it's so good to see you.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here. Simple as that. Your network's awesome, and I love the work you do for the pharmacies out there and everybody in the industry.
Absolutely. You have a special guest with you, another one that is a loudmouth in pharmacy that we desperately need more people like Ann. Introduce Ann to us.
Yes, Ann Lewandowski with the Healthcare Rebel Alliance. It is a great organization because it's formed by Ann, plain and simple. As Todd says, the loudmouth, but I would say the voice of reckoning more.
And give our listeners just an overview of your mission and what you've been doing in healthcare to make sure that the patient's voice is front and center.
Thanks, Todd, for that. My name is Ann Lewandowski, and some of your listeners may know that from Lewandowski versus J&J, a lawsuit on fiduciary duty against my former employer, which of course I cannot discuss because it's ongoing litigation. With that, one of the things that I really took to the marketplace was a need for more transparency and understanding of the data for patients, right? I remember needing to pay $300 for a valcyclovir script. Like, that's not a $300 medication, but simply because I went to a local pharmacy and picked it up, that was the cost because I was in a high deductible health plan. So I'm a patient, I have two autoimmune conditions. And so I really see it from both sides. I see it from the payer side, and I certainly understand, what I like to joke, my PBM, my peanut butter bill to my pharma jelly here. So I think there's just some really great synergies that Bill and I have had. I, as a patient, have experienced challenges. Nothing, of course, like losing somebody or my son, like Bill has.
Bill, as reference to the listeners, if this is the first time listening, if you could give the quick summary to the mission that you're on and how that came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back in January of 2024, my son Cole went to a pharmacy, a chain pharmacy, to get his routine asthma medicine. That night changed his life because he had to make a decision, pay for Advair Discus, which used to be about $66, and it was well over $500. Cole walked out that night, and I got a phone call later that he was in the ICU. And long and short of it, my wife and I spent the next 11 days in the ICU with Cole, and he passed away on January 21st of 2024 from an asthma attack. And simplicity of it, after we've learned a lot, is there was a formulary change. He was not told of it. And that started the mission for Patient Protector. Shannon and I, that's my wife, and fixing this healthcare system. Not saying it's broken, it's just misaligned very badly, and it cost my son's life, in my opinion. And I'm dedicating my life to getting justice for my son Cole and everybody else.
And we need
Right.
that, Bill. That's the power of a father, a power of a mother coming in the afterlife and following up from Cole and his legacy and your mission and combined and what that means when you're coupling with people like Ann and independent pharmacies and people in the healthcare industry that know it's broken and it's bent and anything administrative should not be a blockade to getting us the care that we need to keep us healthy or to, in this case, keep us alive. Nothing administration is more important than care or, like I said, having somebody, lose their life over something from an administration perspective. That makes absolutely no sense. And it shows you how bent and misaligned that it is.
Absolutely. I mean, my wife and I have coined a little phrase, breathing isn't an option. And that's just a proven fact by Cole's death.
And
Guys, I
really,
want to just add a little bit of perspective here because it's easy to say that the incentives are misaligned, but in this case, the incentives were aligned, right? And that is a real gut check that we all need to look at. So, from the pharma perspective, of course, how that change that the formulary change likely happened was because of bidding and rebates. So it's not necessarily that this was the cheapest medication, but what happens is pharma companies go to a PBM and they do closed seal bids on what the pharmaceutical company is willing to do for the PBM in order for that medication to be on formulary. So often this will be more administrative fees. It could be rebates, although rebates are kind of an old term now because a rebate has to be passed on to the end user. So typically the employer health plan. So a lot of those have shifted to administrative fees, specialty pharmacy fees, et cetera, et cetera. So in this case, the pharmacy benefit manager likely received more incentive or kickback because these are in fact covered under the anti-kickback statute. They're just an exemption from that, from being a kickback. So in this case, they received something in order to shift Advair off. So that incentive is perfectly aligned.
Yeah, and that's truly what we've been discovering too, because the replacement, if you want to say, for the Advair was not the cheapest generic alternative. It was another name brand drug that needed a prior authorization, quite honestly.
And that's wild. Needing a PA for a first line inhaler, like that's insane.
It's
Yeah, I mean, this whole world that night, and this is why I align myself with people like Ann, because I can have the voice of coal through me and my anger, but my determination out there. And people like Ann bring the clarity that that I need for what I'm saying. I can be as educated as possible, but I don't have the years of experience in this. And what Ann brings to the table, and as we work together, I, true disruption to the system is what I want to bring. And at the ultimate end is a good solution for everybody.
what's the suggestions, Bill, for swell to swell up as many people's voices as possible to gather our independent community pharmacies through organizations and founders like you and your wife with the Patient Protector? What are some suggested tips to kind of accelerate the ability to get the attention of lawmakers to get things changed?
Well, we've actually heard from lawmakers on that. They want patient voices in Washington. I currently have a mission. It's called the March to a Million. It's on my website. It's pretty simple, actually. But what that is, that's voices to Washington. That's emails, that's phone calls, it's social media. If you can't go to Washington and go talk to your elected official, the next best option is making your voice heard. And that is one of the biggest things, because there is been some strides over the last 17 months in pharmacy benefit manager reform. Plain and simple. It's not where it needs to be. And overall healthcare reform is not where it needs to be. But with last year, things got kind of shuttered towards the end. We're not going to get into major details, but there was some very strong proposed pharmacy benefit manager reform legislation. HR 9096 back in the day, the Pharmacist Fight Back Act was a portion of that, along with other bills that got just shut down over one basic social media post. And there's an overwhelming bipartisan support from Washington. We've got elected officials on the Democratic and the Republican side who you'd never think would work together, do work together. And they told me personally and other people at Patient Protector and PUT, we need your voices, plain and simple. You can simply go to patientprotector.us. You click a little gold ticket, a little gold button. It takes you about 2 minutes, and we'll pre-generate stuff. We'll make it easy. We'll give you phone numbers. But that's what needs to happen. We need to let Washington know we are serious, and we need to get this done.
I love the initiative. I want to once again let our listeners know that they can go to the Patient Protector website, patientprotector.us. And if you go to the button up at the top that says Wisconsin 2025 and click on that, it'll kind of open up additional information. It'll give you the list of legislators that are involved, and your support to those legislators is very important, as well as reaching out to your own state representatives and letting them know that this is available and getting them in front of the content to simplify it, because PBM reform is complex. It's designed that way on purpose to keep people in the dark so they don't know what's going on. It doesn't even make sense the way that it works and how many times it changes. And organizations like the Patient Protector .us, as well as Pharmacists United for Truth and Transparency, even the NCPA, the National Community Pharmacists Association, all aligned to make these changes. And what other organizations can you reference so that our listeners could say, okay, we want to couple this together? Because some of these people, some of these independent community pharmacies are juggernauts, and they're really slamming through some of the obstacles. And I think your guidance could help them.
Yeah, so one thing, just going back to how to engage, Congress is not just in Washington, right? They work for us, they represent us. And there is a real opportunity when they're in district to have a meeting with them or their staff to educate them on why it's so important. So if you're a pharmacy and you're trying to get a bunch of patients, that's not really easy to take to Washington, right? But you could invite your legislator to come to your pharmacy and have your patients there with them. That's a great opportunity, I think. Secondly, there's a ton of patient organizations who are working on this. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the National MS Society, it could be a patient coalition. Oftentimes in a state, there's a patient coalition. Here in Wisconsin, we have the Coalition on Aging and Health groups. And in other states, it might be led by the Cancer Coalition or the American Cancer Society, or sort of these endless iteration of patient groups. So I would say find some of these patient groups and align with them. Often they're looking for patients in a specific area. And if you can be a conduit or, you know, somebody who can help those patients get involved, it's really a nice opportunity for those synergies that you're talking about, Todd.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I know we don't have a lot of time left. I wanted on This Week in Pharmacy to get Bill back into the pods and start interconnecting and networking with others. I do want to give a shout out to our listeners. Bill is going to be involved on a cyclical basis. We're going to get him involved in other shows. If you're a buying group, if you're a wholesaler, if you're a secondary supplier, if you're a technology company, and I know you know how important patient advocacy is, Bill does custom consultancy assignments where he can dial in and help you with these types of initiatives. I want you to reach out to Bill. I'm going to have in the show notes a way to get a hold of him. If you can't get a hold of him, reach out to the Pharmacy Podcast Network and we will get you involved with Bill. Bill, this is exciting that you are being empowered by organizations out there who really take this personally and it's part of their strategy. So we want to get your voice out there.
Yeah, no, thank you for that, Todd. And just very simply, I'm 100% engaged in this pharmacy benefit manager reform all the way through the overall healthcare reform. My heart is with independent pharmacy, as I know if my son would have been at an independent pharmacist versus the chain he was at, I wouldn't be here today. We'd be having a very different discussion. So as we get close to the end, as Todd was showing, you know, our march to 1 million at the Washington level. In Wisconsin, we have Cole's Fight. Both places make it really easy for you to just click a button, make your voices heard. You know, on the screen now is the march to 1 million. That's, you know, we don't have the axe out yet, but it's getting close. But read this, pick a solution, send an email, make a call, post on social media. Make your voices heard at a national level. And also in Wisconsin, keep the push going. We're halfway there with the Senate Health and Aging Committee just passed Cole's Act on unanimously. So we're making some progress. So it was good. It was good. Now we got to keep the fight, and I will be back, and I'm not going anywhere. We're going to fix this.
Wonderful. Thank you. Hey, Bill, thank you for making time for us on This Week in Pharmacy, and thank you so much for being our special guest. This is not the last time that you hear from either of them. We are committed to both of them and their mission. Once again, if you're a business, an organization that wants to take advantage of Bill's personal knowledge and mission, or work with Ann, please reach out to them. Their contact information's in the show notes, or reach out to the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Hey, hold on. We'll be right back with more This Week in Pharmacy.
This episode is sponsored by Independent Pharmacy Cooperative, widely known as IPC. Established in 1983, IPC is the nation's largest group purchasing organization owned by independent pharmacy. With a mission of maximizing the success of community pharmacists, IPC works to provide members with access to effective programs and services designed to enhance profitability for independent pharmacy. Read more about our mission by checking out our website at ipcrx.com. That's ipcrx.com.
Hey, and on This Week in Pharmacy, something special. We just started working with Overit, the team, Mary and Dustin there, the creation of a platform called Prism. You're going to be hearing a lot about that because it's really going to impact pharmacy consultancy. It's going to impact our independent community pharmacies that are looking for ways to bill for treatment services, chronic treatment services, tracking, also preparing it for integration with other EHR systems through Prism. I'd like to welcome back Dr. Devin Buston, who is the CEO of Overit and leading the Prism charge. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Todd. I appreciate you having us on. I'm the Chief Medical Officer. My wife, Mary Cusick, is the CEO.
Yeah. Definitely got it all flipped around as I always in my head. Hey, and introduce my favorite providers or pharmacists. I'm sorry, Dustin, it's not you. It's our guest. So introduce our special guest.
Yeah, so special guest today is Dr. Lisette Logan. She's an amazing clinical pharmacist with a ton of experience, and she also serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Overit Foundation.
Hi.
Hey, Lisette, give us a little background on yourself as a pharmacist. What are you most passionate about being a pharmacist?
Well, I mean, I would be lying if I don't say Overit Foundation and just being able to help, make women's care normal and normalize that. And just being a part of what we're building with Prism and wanting to change what it is that the infrastructure looks like for pharmacists in general, and being part of that journey and seeing the difference that it does make really brings joy to my heart and makes it all worth it, all the schooling and everything.
Absolutely. And all the debt too. It makes it less impactful and painful.
Yeah.
Does anything actually help that? Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that on today's TWIRx. No. Well, what we are going to talk about is, I can only imagine, I'm not a pharmacist, so I don't know what you guys go through, but in your hospital setting, in your specialty setting, long-term care, when you're dealing with our seniors, maybe those seniors have dementia. But today I want to talk to our community pharmacists. They're down deep inside, they're kind of my favorite in some ways, because the independent community pharmacies are out there trying to build their businesses, trying to be sometimes the only healthcare provider in a community. And there may be pharmacies collapsing around them. And now instead of driving 5 miles away to a pharmacy, they might have to drive 20, 30 miles away to a pharmacy. So it's preserving and empowering pharmacies in our community. That's important. And when I think of the community setting, I think of a lot of the doctor Googling that you all have to put up with. You hear from people that come in and said, but I read on this and this, or on TikTok, I saw something. And then poor pharmacists are standing there trying, they have a long line of patients and they got to get to the next one. And they're dealing with something that just is like fugazi, really, for lack of a better word. So today we're going to review, there's an article that came out this week in pharmacy, and it was news18.com. And the title is 7 Myths About Birth Control You Need to Know. And I thought and found it very interesting. And I thought of our team over at Prism and Overit, because you're kind of knee deep into that whole sector of women's health. And so right out of the gate, what do you think of this? I mean, you both have probably experienced the Dr. Googling effect, right?
Yeah. I mean, so for one, I think it's really great when patients advocate for themselves, right? So I'm never going to, I guess, diminish their concerns when it comes to things that they may have read online. Now, we also know that there happens to be a ton of misinformation out there, especially today, right? And so it's hard, right? Like, it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of trying to self-advocate, but maybe they're misinformed on something. And so it's very important to be informed yourself so that you can provide accurate, evidence-based, guideline-based care. But it's also important not to disenfranchise and kind of gently, provide that information without being a contrarian, because you can shut a patient down real quick and they just won't listen to anything you say after that. If you kind of approach it with the wrong attitude.
What about you, Dr. Logan? What have you run into with all?
Yeah, I mean, put it simply, like pharmacists they can separate fact from fiction, and they deal with that on a daily basis. And whether it's the internet or the telephone game, meaning they got information from one person, then it changed to something else, and just being able to, like Devin said, allowing the patient to advocate for themselves, but ensuring that they understand, hey, this is what's factual in that statement, and let's focus on the facts. And sometimes it requires kind of that myth busting to say, no, that's not the case, or even understanding where it came from. Some of those myths, like in this article, understanding where some of that came from and that underlying issue for certain patients, that matters. So listening to the patient and just separating fact from fiction.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna let you both take it away. You guys could switch on and off between each of the myths. We'll start with number one. I'm gonna kick this over to Dustin. It says hormonal birth control makes you gain weight.
Yeah, so this is one that there's a lot of anecdotal reports, right? Like a lot of women have said this, and again, not to take away anybody's personal experience. Is it possible that someone did gain weight because of contraception? Absolutely. Anything is possible, right? That's what I always say. But however, when it's looked at on a population health level, there's a really good Cochrane review that came out in 2014 that really looked into this in depth, and found that combined hormonal contraceptive pills did not have any causation with weight gain, any meaningful weight gain at all. Now, it is interesting, right? Like, this is a part myth. So I'm not going to say that this is a total myth, right? Because where combined hormonal contraceptives did not have a causal relationship with any weight gain, progestin-only pills do have a minor relationship with minimal weight gain, less than 5 pounds. So that may not be quote unquote meaningful at a kind of population health level, but for some individual human, 5 pounds or less than 5 pounds may be something they care about, right? So it is possible on that. From an IUD perspective, intrauterine device, the copper, there's no causal relationship at all. But with the hormonal ones, again, maybe minimal, less than 5 pounds, it's possible. But here's where the myth becomes fact, actually, when it comes to depot shots, depot injections. There actually is a correlation with weight gain with an average of 5 pounds over the first year. So that's not nothing, right? An average of 5 pounds, not potentially less than 5 pounds. This is averaging 5 pounds. And that relationship continues. So it doesn't go away after the 1 year, right? The longer you're on it, the more weight that you gain. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is a part myth.
Very good. Good pick out. All right. Withdraw is effective birth control. I had to read that a couple times, Lisette. I wasn't even sure what that meant, but.
So let's talk withdrawal method, or it's better known as pulling out, right?
Okay.
So this one drives me crazy because a lot of people think that it's a reliable form of birth control, but that's false. So the truth is that it's only somewhat effective if it's works reliably when used perfectly. What does that even mean, right? So let me make that make sense. If you have to consider a perfect use and typical use. Perfect use, think clinical trial. Think that everything is followed to the T, every single instruction, exactly every single time for a year. And in that scenario, right, withdrawal is going to prevent pregnancy 96% of the time. So that means that 4 out of 100 couples would get pregnant in that year. but life isn't a clinical trial, right? Like life is realistic, typical use, meaning you're going to have distractions, you're going to have human error, you're going to have mistakes. So when considering pulling out, withdraw, that effectiveness, it's going to drop from 96% to a 78%. So 1 in 5 couples are that are relying on this method will experience a pregnancy in that year. So that's pretty big. Why does it fail? The reality is there's pre-ejaculate fluid that contains sperm. Sperm gets you pregnant. You know, it's pretty, I think, straightforward. I think that the withdrawal method requires perfect timing and control, and you need to be realistic about it. And sometimes you're in the heat of the moment and, that doesn't work out. Yep. So if people do use this method and they're planning on using that as a form of birth control to prevent pregnancy, they have to be realistic on how is it really going to work?
But I will say that, it can be part of a good plan, right? Like Correct. In and of itself, probably not the greatest. But if you're using other barrier methods, for example, like a Kaya diaphragm or something like that, like it can be part of a really good overall plan, but it's probably not a good solo plan.
Correct.
Excellent. All right. This kind of ties into myth number 3, and that is birth control prevents STIs. And I definitely understood this one just from terminology. So this one's for you, Dustin.
Yeah. So obviously, the answer is no. Not all birth control prevents STIs, and in fact, the hormonal birth controls don't prevent STIs at all. Right. The only thing that prevents STIs are barriers. Right. So condoms. Now, most people think of condoms, they think of male condoms, and those are by far the most popular, but female condoms actually do exist. And by the way, can be paid for by insurance, which few people know. Mm-hmm. And most people don't prefer them, but they're there. They're an option. But even with condoms, some STIs, sexually transmitted infections, are spread through skin-to-skin contact. And oftentimes condoms don't cover the entire genitalia. So you can still contract things like HPV or herpes through skin-to-skin contact while wearing condoms. Obviously, condoms also break, so they're not perfect. And there's the kind of like typical versus perfect use that Lisette had talked about, so it's still not perfect. So abstinence obviously is the only surefire way to not get an STI, but condoms help a lot. The other thing that would be really interesting here to know that very few people probably are aware of is that some contraception actually makes STIs more likely to spread. And there's one in particular, and it's spermicides with an anoxonol 9 compound. It can cause mucosal irritation, which can increase the transmission of HIV. So that's kind of the fun fact, I guess. So it's, I guess, again, kind of like a part myth, complicated thing. But in general, hormonal contraceptives do not. Condoms can help, but they're not perfect. And certain spermicides can actually increase HIV transmission.
All right. We are on to number 4, birth control damages fertility. Lisette.
So this is one of the most common fears that patients do bring up. The idea that birth control damages fertility is just simply not true. So it's not supported by science. In fact, there are studies that show that fertility usually returns quickly after you stop a hormonal contraceptive. So hormonal contraceptive, whether it's the pill, the patch, the ring, implant, IUD, it doesn't damage fertility. Once you stop, your natural hormones, they take over and fertility usually returns quickly. For most methods, ovulation is going to resume within a couple months. There is the exception of the Depo shot, in the way that it works by suppressing ovulation for months at a time. So for some people, they can experience delays in getting their period and returning to normal fertility. For some, it could take up to 12 to 18 months to return to regular fertility. But even then, that's not considered a permanent infertility. It's just a delay. So if someone is having trouble conceiving after they stop birth control, it's usually because there's an underlying issue there, right? And so you have to think PCOS, endometriosis. It wasn't the contraceptive itself that caused it. In fact, there's actually studies, more than one study out there that has shown that over 80% of people who discontinue contraceptive conceive within a year, which is the same rate that we see in the general population of people not on birth control.
Yep.
So I think the key takeaway there is we should be paying attention to things like age, overall health, and pre-existing conditions, not whether a person has been on birth control or not.
Yeah. And let's not forget the male's part of the infertility, because I think we always think of infertility equals a female problem, but we know that a lot of infertility is male driven as well. So
Excellent. All right. What about myth number 5? It's only for pregnancy prevention.
yeah. So obviously that is the number one reason it exists on the market and what it's, labeled under for FDA use and everything. But there's a lot of non-contraceptive benefits of hormonal contraceptives, right? So, to name a few, lighter, more predictable, more controlled, less painful periods. You can skip periods. That's a benefit to many. Not everyone wants to do that, but for those who want to, that's very nice. It's also effective in the treatment of diseases, right? So dysmenorrhea, for example, is painful periods that are abnormally painful. It can greatly help that. It can also greatly help menorrhagia, which means too much bleeding during your period. There's plenty of studies that show that the volume of blood loss decreases when you're on a hormonal contraceptive and you're in the withdrawal period. In addition, right, like you think of bleeding, well, what does that lead to in a lot of women of reproductive age? Iron deficiency anemia. So it can help by decreasing that blood volume. It can help prevent and or help you kind of regain normal blood counts in someone who has iron deficiency anemia as part of an overall plan. And then, there's a lot of other kind of menstrually mediated medical problems like PMS. A lot of people know that, but there's also premenstrual dysphoric disorder or PMDD. And so using extended or continuous cycle hormonal contraceptives has been proven to really help with those conditions. And then there's the really annoying stuff, right? That like women really care about, right? Like having good skin, you don't want acne, right? You don't want to grow hair in places that, is unattractive in your mind, right? Or losing hair, alopecia, right? So a lot of those conditions are mediated by kind of too much androgenicity, too much kind of like male-driven hormone stuff. And that can be modulated through hormonal contraceptives. And then actually there's a decreased risk in ovarian and endometrial cancer with hormonal contraceptives as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Myth number 6 is IUDs are only for women who've had children. Lisette, what do you say about this one?
So this myth goes back a few decades, and it has to deal with the older versions of the IUD when they were larger and they were really harder to place. It goes back to like 1970s, right? There was an IUD at the time called the Dowkin Shield, and it caused severe infections and infertility because it was a flawed design. And it was pulled from the market, but the stigma stuck. So fast forward, here we have now modern IUDs that are completely different, and they've been redesigned. They're smaller, they're safer, and they're on the market for and recommended for all women, including women who have not had children. So because we are, debunking myths, let me share some facts on IUDs. So typically you have 2 types of IUDs. You're going to have hormonal IUDs. That could be your Mirena, Kyleena, Skyla, or you can have your copper IUD, which is non-hormonal, like Paragard. And both of these types are going to be highly effective, like success rates, 99%. and they can last anywhere from 3 to 12 years, really depending on the type. So the longevity of that IUD means how long is that device going to keep effectively working to protect you against pregnancy as birth control. So hormonal IUDs, they can last anywhere from 3 to 8 years. Copper IUD can last anywhere like up to 12 years. And hormonal IUDs, they help, like Devin was saying, they can help with heavy periods or painful periods. Copper IUDs are actually used also as emergency contraceptive if they're placed within 5 days of unprotected sex. And ACOG, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists, they recommend IUDs as a first-line option for women of all reproductive, regardless of their age or if they even given birth. The reality is IUDs are safe. They're reversible, and it's a convenient choice if your insurance covers it and the patient has the time. I think that if we continue to correct these outdated myths, we'll make sure that, women have access to effective options that fit their lifestyle and their health needs.
I love it. Thank you. Our last one, myth number 7, is breastfeeding means you don't need birth control. Listen, I'll just chime in as the consumer on the podcast. I know that one is absolutely a myth. Goodness gracious. I can only imagine, your mind around that of being like, oh yeah, I'm breastfeeding, I don't need birth control. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? Like what?
Well, I'm about to blow your mind, Todd. I'm going to go ahead and say this is not a myth, but it has to be incredibly done to the T. Okay. So what I mean by that is this is called lactational amenorrhea method. Okay. And it actually is 98% effective.
Wow.
But these 3 criteria need to be met. Okay. So the baby has to be exclusively breastfed, no bottle supplementation. If there's bottle supplementation, it decreases in effectiveness significantly. And I would state that at that point, it's no longer an effective choice. There cannot have been a period since the delivery of the baby, right? So if you've started ovulating again, it's not going to work, right? And then the baby has to be less than 6 months old. It doesn't continue to work forever, right? Like, some women breastfeed past 6 months, totally great, but it's not an effective form of birth control past 6 months. So if you meet all 3 of those criteria, it's actually pretty effective. So I would myth bust this, but with the strict criteria. And then I would also say that because we know it stops working after 6 months, and any of those 3 criteria may end at any point, right? Like, sometimes women have to introduce formula that they weren't planning on introducing, right? So having a plan in place to transition from lactational amenorrhea method to either a hormonal or non-hormonal contraceptive option is really good thing to talk about before they need it, right? Because the second that we'll call it LAM, lactational amenorrhea method, LAM, the minute that LAM stops being effective, like you can get pregnant again, right? And if you've just had a baby, like that is quite a big deal to many. So when we talk about what contraceptives that you can qualify for while breastfeeding, you got to think of 42 days, okay? This is just an oversimplification, but I like oversimplifying things. There's the USMEC guidelines. If you want more criteria, you can look on that. But if it's within 42 days of postpartum, then you can't use a combined hormonal contraceptive pill, or actually combined hormonal contraceptives, period, right? So vaginal ring or patch. And the reason is it decreases the milk production. That's one of the problems. There's also the increased risk of DVT, thrombosis as well. So you want to avoid the estrogen-containing hormonal contraceptives before 42 days. But they can have a progestin-only pill, they can have an implant, etc. So a depot shot. So pretty much everything other than. But after 42 days, everything's fair game.
Excellent. Excellent updates. Wow, this was fun. Appreciate the insights for both of you. I do want to give a shout out to our listeners. There's a system out there I'd like you to take a look at. It's getprismrx.com. Once again, the word getprismrx.com. And this is a workflow system, evidence-based technologies to empower pharmacists, like I was saying, that dig down into treatment and follow up with treatment and treatment management. Devin, you and I are going to be spending some time on this system for our listeners and really digging into a 3-part series. However, I do want to have you back, and Dr. Logan, promise you'll come back, because I'd like to apply this system specifically to fertility or birth control or diabetes or something where we can start making kind of some examples of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to do that.
Yes, yes. And thank you again, Todd, for the work that you do for pharmacists and just the pharmacy world. We need more champions like you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. My favorite providers, amplifying your voices, getting your information out there to other pharmacies and pharmacists. And I can't wait to hear from organizations that begin using the PRISM system to just become more of a provider of a holistic, more encompassing 360 degrees of healthcare services for the community that are desperately needed. But I thank you both for being on TWIRx this week.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Hey, hang on.
Feeling lost with the complexities of pharmacy accounting?
In pharmacy today, there's so many different, variables and issues that impact the pharmacy books, records, accounting, the profitability of the store, so forth. There's different components of pharmacy that have its own nuances from an accounting standpoint. And so it's tricky. There's no doubt about it.
Ready to take your pharmacy to the next level but don't know where to start? Sykes & Company is here to help. Introducing the RX Assessment. With the RX Assessment, the pharmacy CPAs and advisors at Sykes will do a deep dive into your accounting and tax situation and give you the action steps you need to take your pharmacy to the next level.
If you're interested in, working with a team who understands the industry and how the accounting and tax should really be in a pharmacy, this is your chance to get a under the hood check of what's going on and getting the feedback of any issues or concerns or, again, things we think you're doing really well with.
Get the financial checkup your pharmacy needs and head over to sykes-cpa.com or call 252-482-7644.
Hey, our special feature, I love reaching out to the markets, and I love reaching out to academia and the profession associations and really making them part of this, because This Week in Pharmacy loves to feature people, organizations changing the industry. And there was a story back on August 20th, 2025 from Radio Iowa. And the headline of this story, and I've already talked about this on TWIRx before, but it says Iowa pharmacists are in demand as they try to fill healthcare provider gap. And we see Dr. Jill Colzar, the dean of Iowa Pharmacy, University of Pharmacy in Iowa, and the College of Pharmacy, and her leadership. So she goes out into the community and starts meeting with community pharmacies and involving the students. And I was blown away by it. I want to welcome to TWIRx our dean of Iowa College of Pharmacy, Dr. Jill Colzar.
Well, hello.
Hey there. It's so good to meet you.
Yeah, it's great to meet you too. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
All right. I'm getting right into this story. So this is special because I talk to pharmacy students throughout the year. Shout out to WVU School of Pharmacy. They have me in every year with the P3s. And I kind of do a tough love presentation onto kind of the state of the nation. But then I fill it before I leave with a tremendous amount of hope and joy, because of the future of what's happening in our profession, I think is nothing less than dynamic. So part of that is being able to reach out into the community and connect with pharmacy owners or pharmacists in the community. And I was like, you need to write the playbook, Jill, on like inserting this into an annual exercise for every dean in at leading a school of pharmacy.
Well, it was really fun, so I would encourage people to do that, but I, don't want to And we're definitely doing it every year from now on. We learned so much and we made so many connections. It was just a really priceless opportunity to get to know our graduates and our alumni even better than we do already.
I love it. So give us some examples of, you know, if you don't want to name names, it's okay, but kind of like some things that have refreshed your mind of, wow, what's really happening out there. Were there any things in the community that you were like, this is surprising to me, and this is going to be beneficial to bringing this news back to our students and faculty?
Well, one of the things that I was really critical is you may have heard Iowa is the third state to pass standard of practice acts. And so now in Iowa, instead of having laws that have a list of things and clinical services that pharmacists can provide in the community setting, we now have all pharmacists can practice independently at their level of experience and qualifications. And so that change was put into place in 2024, signed into the law this July in 2025. So this really represents both a huge change, but a huge opportunity for our community pharmacists in Iowa. And we just really wanted to make sure that we are seeing what people are doing in the community and making sure we're training our students to meet those needs. And I was just really blown away by lots of different things. You know, community pharmacies in very small towns, they're providing immunizations, they're providing treat and tests, they're providing chronic disease state management. And so I just impressed with the level of clinical services that are provided. But I was also really impressed by the relationships that people had in the community with the pharmacists. So we were in Kingsley, and I think we were with Connor and his partner in the pharmacy. And it was just really a joy to see them interact with their patients, people coming in, asking them questions. It was fun. They kind of asked us some questions too. So we really enjoyed that.
I love
Yeah,
it.
Connor and Porter both. Yeah, and these guys are Porter is well, I don't want to get it mixed up. One's a new graduate and one graduated 2 years ago, and they bought a community pharmacy. Um, and actually, so that is some major adulting at age 24 and 26. So I was just so impressed with their energy and how, again, how well the whole community spoke about them.
Jill, I love this. Another part that I love of this is I want to shout out to your faculty and the creativity of the marketing team and the creativity of Iowa College of Pharmacy, and just it takes everyone to get something to truly change. And we can talk about change, but when you see it actually taking place and the ingredients that are necessary to really make this happen, this is part of it. Bringing true stories back and real experiences back from your perspective with the trust that you already have as the dean of the pharmacy, and you start sharing that with faculty and teachers and the students, and you're like, I know that we need community pharmacists, because community pharmacy has gotten beat up over the last 2, 3, 4 years, especially within the last 6 months with closings in the retail community chain space. And it's like sometimes there's parts of our industry that we're like, oh, I'm starting to lose hope based on what's happening. But then on the other side, I see a transformation, and you mentioned it. I see disease state management happening at the community pharmacy level. And you would think, oh, that's something that has to be from a specialist or from the hospital system. It's happening at the community space. Share with us kind of that part of it and what you're seeing happening in community pharmacy.
Yeah, well, what we're seeing happen in community pharmacy is right now, I think kind of the base setting is most places offer vaccines, some types of chronic disease state management, and medication reconciliation programs. But in Iowa, we're really gearing up to become the primary care providers in these small rural communities. There's a huge shortage of primary care physicians, and it's primarily hard hit in in the rural areas. And so what we feel like is, in collaboration with family medicine at the University of Iowa, what we really want to do is upskill all these pharmacists to be able to provide chronic disease state management. And we actually just got another study funded. We are kicking off a pilot to do lung cancer screening in community pharmacies.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I want to give a shout out to your team. I can never say it. Exponential learning. Is that how to say it?
Experiential.
Learning. Anyway, see, that's why I'm not a pharmacist, Joe. So can't pronounce stuff. So I'm going to give a shout out to them too. When you're ready with that study, we want to bring it onto TWIRx, and I want to dig into the study, kind of give a shout out to the Iowa College of Pharmacy, but then just give our listeners some of this new information. I think that would be great. You going to come back and do that?
Happy to.
All right. I want to give a shout out to your whole organization. So excited to have found this story. That is the Iowa College of Pharmacy. Go to pharmacy.uiowa.edu or just Google Iowa College of Pharmacy. You'll find it. Jill, this was special. Congratulations, and just kind of like kicking this off and getting this going and being out there. Like I said, I was impressed by it because I just think that our pharmacy future leaders, our students, they're stressed out right now. They're like, how am I paying for this? And I got to study my ass off, and all of went through stress. But now they can look at the story like this and be like, okay, I see a pathway to impacting healthcare in my community. And that's literally what I want these young future pharmacists to be passionate about.
That's great.
All right. Well, thank you for being on TWIRx. We will talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, welcome back to This Week in Pharmacy. Hey, we have the world of the conference season's coming up. Not sure if you are going to the National Community Pharmacists Association, like we've talked with other people on the show. Just today's TWIRx, we were talking to Nicole McClure, going to be showing up with there's going to be thousands of people there. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of our independent community pharmacies. There's another show called HLTH, known as Health, and it's more tech involved. I'm very split because I can't go to both, can't be in two places at once. But if you are going to that, very technology oriented, dialing into the future, how we're going to leverage AI. But today there's a special announcement just this week in pharmacy. We had a announcement come out on the Morning Star. It says Wellgistics Health and Theracos Bio partner to expand nationwide PBM-free access to Bremzavi and FDA-approved diabetes therapy through 6,500 plus different pharmacies. This is big news, and I'd like to welcome my guest with Wellgistics to the show and to give us more information on how this is going to impact pharmacies out there and the opportunity. So welcome to the show, Dr. Jason Lang.
Thanks, Todd. Happy to be here.
Hey, you bring a lot of clout to this discussion because you were a pharmacy operator and owner yourself for years, and now you're joining forces with Wellgistics and just went public earlier this year too. So congratulations to you and the team. But talk to us about your role at Wellgistics. I think this is fascinating.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. It has been a wild ride becoming public and being on going through the IPO process. But so I currently serve as the president of distribution at Wellgistics. Wellgistics Health is the parent company. We kind of have three entities under that Wellgistics Health umbrella. We have a technology hub piece, a specialty pharmacy piece, licensed in all 50 states. And then we have our distribution 3PL, NABP accredited, all 50 states there as well. So I spend most of my time in distribution and interacting with manufacturers on a daily basis.
Jason, this is some big news that just came out this week. So talk to us more about why this is a You know what picked up my attention? I don't want to always have to talk about the big ugly elephant in the room, but when you said PBM free access, like I need to hear about this.
Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about it. We're constantly looking for ways that we can support our independent pharmacies. We have about 6,500 independent pharmacies in our network that we sell to regularly. And we're looking for ways to pay pharmacists to kind of operate at the top of their license and not just, the typical race to the bottom pricing and generic game and just, making pennies on the dollar like I did for, 12 years owning and operated my own pharmacies. So we partnered up with a company called Theracos Bio. They have an SGLT2 product called Brenzavi. And it competes with the likes of some big names out there, Jardiance, Invokana, and Farxiga. And this is a cash product, so typically much less expensive than those brand names that everybody knows. And we'd like to pay pharmacists for an adherence program where if they find a patient that would benefit from the cost savings of switching to Brenzavi over one of the other three alternatives, we're going to pay them for that interchange that we call an adherence program. So we're going to pay pharmacists to operate that program. It'll be a one-time fee that they get paid for doing the interchange, and then they'll have that prescription that is just as profitable as any of the other brand name medications that they're dispensing, but obviously beneficial for the patient, and it's not as high cost for the pharmacy to bring in and keep on their books and hope they don't get audited and all of those other things that we deal with as independent pharmacists.
Jason, I can't help but to tap into my creativity when I hear programs like this, and that's kind of a key word. If I'm a pharmacy owner and I have an opportunity to build an adherence program for my patient who now is on this medication, I may be able to take the time to do something ancillary and encompassing of this entire program in the form of education, in the form of a supplement opportunity, in the form of whatever I can do to get the whole community, not just the individual patient, to really understand that this is an option for them in being that trusted source of medicines and of drugs in my community. Because pharmacists they're the leading source of validity and trust in being providers. And what do you think of building a campaign around this as an independent community pharmacy to use that as an educational driven marketing plan?
Yeah, I'm right with you. I'm hoping that is what our independent pharmacy partners will do, and we're going to support them in that as well. I think at Wellgistics, we hope this is the first of many of these types of programs. I mean, throughout my career, I've kind of seen. I was in the space when Walmart introduced the $4 generic plan, and I felt like that was the fastest decline kind of in the generic dispensing space and kind of devaluing what pharmacists do, because if our time is only worth $4 and that includes the medication, our time was essentially being valued at $0. And we really do provide so much value for patients and our independent pharmacies all across the country. So I've always wanted to come up with programs that pay pharmacists to operate at the tops of their licenses and just continue that relationship with patients, that knowing that they're looking out for their best interest, they're trying to save them money, and they're not just playing the same game that we've always played with the PBMs.
Yeah, that's great news. And the great options for the creative, aggressive pharmacies out there who do things like that, building programs and using an opportunity to reach out to their community. When you're in this as a pharmacy owner, when you're in this as a technician or a pharmacist, you're living it every day. It's not a big deal to you. But if you took time to tell the community that you're in of different technologies that are coming, different medications that are coming, something that may be new, that maybe they see a commercial on TV and they have questions about it, I see that as an education opportunity. And to me, education is also a way to market additional services that we bring value through our independent community pharmacies. So I absolutely love when organizations like Wellgistics invest in building these like adherence programs, like you said, and then I could take that and run with the ball and make it a program for the community.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, patients and pharmacy owners alike just kind of see the decline of prescription coverage. It just seems to do less and less for people, and everybody's looking for a cash option, or their deductibles getting bigger, or the coverage is getting worse. So drugs like Brenzavi that are a cash prescription really kind of fill that need. And I hope that a lot of other manufacturers are going to kind of follow Therakos Bio's lead and introduce more of these type of products into the market. And then we can do these types of programs where we pay pharmacists to switch.
Jason, you have two teams headed out this fall at the end of October. You have two people headed out to New Orleans. They say New Orleans to meet up with the NCPA, and then you're headed to Vegas, which I'm very jealous, to go to the HLTH, the health conference. So tell us a little bit about what you're excited about in the upcoming HLTH environment.
Yeah, I'm super excited. It'll be my first time visiting Vegas for the HLTH conference. I've been there for Assembia a number of times, but this one will be a new fun experience. We love our partnership with NCPA. We love seeing our pharmacies there, so we definitely wanted to have a presence there. We have a great partnership with NCPA, and we're one of their title sponsors. But I don't even know what to expect. You told me a little bit before the show that it's going to be a fantastic experience at HLTH, and Vegas is always fun, and it's an easy trip for me coming out of Salt Lake City. So I'm really excited to see what I can learn there. And honestly, the attendees list is pretty massive. There's a lot of people attending HLTH.
There is. That's where I met Best Buy Health. That's where I met a strategic team at Weight Watchers, and all of these organizations gravitated towards the presence that was independent community pharmacy there. Very little presence. So shout out to our independent community pharmacies. You may have to divide up your crews in order to go to the Super Bowl of independent community pharmacy, which is NCPA 2025. But if you have an opportunity to send a tech or someone that's techie and understands the leverage of technology, HLTH is, in my opinion, probably one of the best conferences in how technology is impacting healthcare and how the combination of passionate people with technology can really change things for people in need. And so, yeah, I think you're going to have a wonderful time. It's definitely a different experience. So take a lot of notes, and you're going to meet a ton of people. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I mean, I think that the technology side of our industry is really going to need to advance quickly because we're in some ways stuck in the dark ages of fax machines. And so I'm excited to see all the different technology that's coming.
Jason, this has been wonderful. Appreciate your time on TWIRx today. A shout out to Wellgistics Health. You guys have come a long, long way. I remember your organization 10, 12 years ago. So it's definitely become a massive influencer, and it's bringing a lot of creative options to our independent community pharmacies, and I absolutely love that. So thanks for being here. Promise you'll come back.
I promise I will. Anytime you invite me.
All right. Hang on, guys. We'll be right back with more TWIRx.